The new film on the life of Hall of Famer Yogi Berra, It Ain't Over, opens tomorrow, May 12th, only in theaters. We welcome in the executive producer of the film and granddaughter of Yogi Berra, Lindsay Berra. Welcome. We're so happy to have you here on Off Base. I cannot wait to see this alongside the director of the film, Sean Mullen. Lindsay, I want to start with you on this one. Such a special day. Why was May 12th important for the release of this film?
May 12th, tomorrow, where the film opens in 100 theaters in Los Angeles and the tri-state area, would have been my grandpa Yogi's 98th birthday. So it's a special day for my family. I miss him very much, so it's really cool that the movie is opening in theaters on his birthday.
Yeah, what a beautiful way to celebrate his legacy. Why is it so important for you to keep that going?
I think that as Grandpa went on with his life, he stopped playing in 1965. He lived another 50 years, and he was making commercials and just saying funny things. And that is what is most recently in people's memory. And I think that big outside personality of his kind of overshadowed what a tremendous baseball player he was. And I want the film to remind people how great he was on the field, but also to remind them that as great as he was as a baseball player, he was an even better human being.
Oh, gee, I had to wear the T-shirt just because
stepping
Yogi,
up.
You know,
but you need to sit up a little bit. We have the topic
right?
bar blocking it.
I mean, why
you
not?
Just show that thing off.
But I wanted to ask you, Sean, and you talk to all these historians, baseball players, and anchors. What was the coolest story for you that was said about Yogi?
Oh, man. I mean, so many great ones. I mean, sitting in Billy Crystal's backyard for 90 minutes, I mean, that every single thing he said was incredible, right? I mean, we only could, it's really tough to condense someone's life, like, so amazing, such an amazing life like Yogi's into 90 minutes, and so it was really hard. I mean, the stories were great. Everybody had something interesting to say. I mean, it's always nice to do a documentary when you start off, and the very first thing I would start most interviews with was, tell me about the first time you met Yogi, and almost every single time somebody started laughing, So, we learned an awful lot about him.
And I will say this, though, because we talk about, obviously, who he was and his fun lines that he had, but I always wanted to know a little bit, and this is why I'm so intrigued about the documentary, is what was he like in the clubhouse, right? What was he like as a baseball player, the grinding days where, not everybody wants to play baseball in the middle of hot July, but he was the guy that was, nope, I'm coming in when it's the toughest, right? And I'm gonna go out there. Was that kind of something you saw in your grandfather?
I mean, I always say this, he went through the D-Day invasion. He was a machine gunner on a rocket boat, providing cover fire for our troops going to shore on Omaha Beach. He literally faced a life or death situation. And I think you come back with amazing perspective.
Correct.
He was lucky to come home when so many other men did not. And I think he just lived his life with a profound sense of gratitude and joy, and playing a kid's game for a living after going through that experience. You can only go to the ballpark happy to be there. He caught both ends of doubleheaders 117 times in his career. He was no stranger to the grind. He absolutely loved being there and being on a baseball field. And we have some amazing archival footage in this film, and you see, if there's a called third strike, Grandpa jumps out of his crouch like he's winning the World Series on just a called third strike because he had so much fun playing baseball.
I can only imagine the perspective that created being over in France and having to go through all of that. We saw it in the film, Lindsay, but I don't understand, or why do you think his name isn't closer to that top of the list of the greatest players of all time, just given what he's done on the field?
Sean says a lot that folks have a hard time taking in folks who are both funny and good, that you can't be both. And like I said, I think Grandpa was more recently funny than he was good at baseball. And it's just, I think, recency bias. That's what's at the forefront of people's minds.
But in his Hall of Fame career, what for you sticks out the most, or what's the most important thing in his Hall of Fame career for you?
I mean, I think that the fact that he never struck out in 1950, 656 plate appearances and only 12 strikeouts. I think his, acceptance and welcoming of Black and Latin players like Jackie Robinson, Minnie Minoso, Elston Howard with the Yankees. I think there were so many other players, Ted Williams, Pee Wee Reese, who didn't say no to that. But I think that's super important because I think it paved the way for the civil rights movement in this country. I don't think we get where we were with the civil rights movement without it first happening in baseball. And that's a big part of my grandpa's career. But, you know, he still has records that will never be broken.
Yep.
1,430 RBIs by a catcher. No way will anyone ever do that. 10 World Series rings, but with the same team. You know, guys don't stay with the same team for 10 years nowadays.
10 months.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, 10
You're
months,
lucky.
let alone.
Yeah, you're going to end up with an office full of jerseys by the end of your career.
They used to tell me, the first team you ever get drafted for is the team that you'll probably fall in love with. After that, it just becomes business and baseball and generally.
Wow.
For Yogi, it was his home forever.
It was still a game, and you had so much passion. I love the way you're conveying that. Sean, obviously, you got to know him as a director.
I mean, actually, I never met Yogi, which is kind of crazy.
Through the lens
but I feel like I
other
know him. You know, I
people.
never met him, but I loved him. You know, and almost like Yogiism there. No, the stat that jumps out to me that's really a motivating factor to telling the stories there, and I'll try to turn it to you, see if you can name who the two people are. But there's only two players in the history of baseball to finish top 4 MVP voting 7 years in a row. So top 4 MVP 7 years in a row. Only 2 people have ever done it.
I can't say Mike Trout because I think he got hurt, but it could be Mike Trout. That's one.
Was it Barry Bonds?
I'm like nodding.
Mike Trout. And then the second one would be.
Is it Barry Bonds?
No, it's not Barry Bonds.
Come on.
Like a wild
Only
guess.
2 people. Oh, Jeter?
Grandpa. No,
Oh, you're
Yogi.
Yogi Berra.
Yeah, okay, so I got one.
Yeah.
got
That's what even you had no idea.
But what's amazing
I was
about
told
that-
there'd be no test.
50 years apart, right? It took 50 years for someone else to finish, you know, that well in the MVP voting for that long. And Grandpa did it catching 120 games a year.
Yeah.
And he was still
impressive.
able to put up those crazy offensive stats. It's really just incredible.
So people knew he was good, but I don't think enough people knew he was great.
Yeah,
would agree with
that's why
that.
I was so intrigued. Like,
Does that make sense?
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
You
That's
can talk
kinda-
about all the
yeah.
things that Yogi did, but the baseball, in between the lines, like, he was a very good, if not one of the best catchers of all time ever, right? So for me, I can't wait to watch it.
That is so true. Like people will say, like, you were a great person, you were funny, or you're great between the lines, and those two seem to be mutually exclusive. To your point, let's talk about him though off the field. Like as his granddaughter, what stories stick out to you?
People always ask me for, like, you know, oh, tell me a funny story. But my memories with my grandpa are just kind of the sweeter stories and memories that everyone has with their grandfather, like decorating the Christmas tree or making meatballs before Christmas or Thanksgiving or playing wiffle ball or touch football or croquet. We had a croquet set and it would play just all kinds of sports in the front yard, watching Seinfeld reruns. He used to come. I played ice hockey in high school. He got me really into hockey, and he used to come to all of my hockey games, and I remember like lining up for a face-off and having the opposing players say, "Oh my God, is that Yogi Berra?" And I would go, "Where? What are you talking about?" But just like normal grandpa, granddaughter memories. You know, when I was a little kid, I used to go to Yankee games, but then he was fired by George Steinbrenner, and we didn't go for a very long time. So those memories kind of faded, and then I got some new ones after they made up. But when I think about my Grandpa Yogi, it's definitely just kind of hanging out in their den, watching ball games and just being his grandkid.
He was just grandpa to you, and obviously left a tremendous legacy, not just with his family, but with baseball fans everywhere. The new documentary, It Ain't Over, opens tomorrow, May 12th, only in theaters. Lindsay, Sean, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Go to the movies,
Let's
everybody.
go.
Go to the movies.